Welcome to everyone. With this video you will learn how powerful are the cycles and how profitable they are when trading them in the stock market. This week video will cover the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the week of March 18, 2024. Before we start, make sure you read carefully the disclaimer. Let's start with the 20-week cycle. For the longer time frame analysis, I recommend to watch my previous video on February 26. On this update, I was expected the low for this cycle on March 14th. Let's see what's happened since the last update, and what's next for the near future. The February 23rd high at 39,282.28 was the 20-week cycle peak. We will go in greater details to validate the peak by analyzing the next shorter time frame, the 80-day cycle. For the low, the time for the 20-week cycle is due by now. March 14th was Thursday. How we will have confirmation of the 20 weeks low. The first sign will be on the 20-day cycle chart, when the Dow Jones Industrial Average will cross above his cycle line. This will be the first indication. So we can expect the 20 weeks low occurs soon, if it's not already formed last week. What's next? Soon the low is confirmed. We can expect the Dow Jones Industrial Average continue moving up, on his way to the 40 weeks peak. When we will know when the 40 weeks peak has formed? When the 20 weeks low is confirmed, I will draw what I call the cycle trend line. Hurst called it the VTL. VTL stand for valid trend line, but to make easier to understand, I prefer to call cycle trend line. How it works? Let's take the example on this 20-week cycle. When the Dow Jones Industrial Average will cross below the cycle trend line. This will confirm the peak of the next longer cycle is formed or forming. Since the cycle trend line is for the 20-week cycle, the next longer cycle will be the 40-week cycle. We will come back more in details in the next lower time frame. If the 20-week cycle low formed last week, the next one is scheduled for July 15th and at the same time. By the principle of synchronicity, it will be the 40-week cycle low. The success rate for the 20 weeks is 80%. Let's move down to the lower time frame, the 80-day cycle. In my last update, I mentioned, to know if the 20-week cycle low is ahead or behind us, we have to keep an eye on the 80-day cycle chart. If the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below the uptrend line, the purple line or the cycle line in the next 2 weeks, then we will know the low is still to come. On March 5th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his trend line, confirming the 39,282.28 high is the 80 days peak. Confirming also the 80 days low is ahead of us. The crossing below his trend line confirm the peak is not only the 80 days peak, but also the 20-week cycle peak. Since the crossing confirmed the peak of the next longer cycle, in this case, the next longer cycle is the 20 weeks. Meaning the 20-week cycle low at the time of the crossing is still ahead of us. If March 11th is the 80 days low, the next one is expected on May 18th. If the 80-day cycle is running longer than expected. Just as reminder, originally the expected date was the March 19th. And the low happened this week, then we have to update the next 80 days cycle time on the chart and on the roadmap. The cycle trend is up at least to April 14th, when the 80-day cycle should form his peak, the red dashed line. The new all-time high in the 80-day cycle peak occurred on the right part of the cycle. The red vertical line, we call that right time translation. This is the reason why the 80-day cycle correction is mild, because when this happens, is usually bullish. The success rate for this cycle is 100%. What's next for the 80-day cycle? Here's the roadmap for the next 80-day cycle. Let's move down to the lower time frame was on March 11th cycle. Next time the Dow Jones Industrial Average cross above his 20-day cycle line, 20-week cycle low is ahead or behind us. This will be the first confirmation of the 80 days and 20-week cycle bottomed. If the Dow Jones Industrial Average will provide an upside uptrend line, which should be met very quickly, the purple line or the cycle line in the next 2 weeks, the 20-day cycle peak. Then we will know the low is still to come. After forming his peak, the market should correct and find support. The Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his trend line, confirming the 39,282.28 higher than the target triggered by the previous crossing, confirming also the 80-day low is ahead of us. Around the first week of April, crossing below his trend line confirmed. This will be the confirmation of the 80 days and 20-week cycle, the 20-week cycle peak. Then around the second week of April, confirmed the Dow Jones Industrial Average. In this case, the next longer cycle is the 20 weeks, providing a downside target, meaning the 20-week cycle low at the time of the crossing is still ahead of the 40-day cycle line, and made a 40-day cycle low around April 14th. The next one is expected on May 18th. Then the Dow Jones Industrial Average, if the 80-day cycle is running longer than expected, cycle line. Just as reminding an originally the expected date was the March 19th. The market will cross again below his cycle line. Then we have to update the next 80-day cycle time on the chart and on the roadmap. With the first low trend is up at least to April 14th, then rally, using his cycle line as resistance, the red dashed line. Then resume his decline to form the 80-day cycle low on May 18th. Occurred on the right part of the cycle. Of course, if the actual 80-day cycle low occurred after the March time translation, we have to adjust the dates. This is the reason why the 80-day cycle correction is mild. The 40-day when this happens is usually bullish. On my last update, the last 40-day cycle was on February 13th, and the next one was expected on March 21st. Cycle. But again, there is a possibility the cycles run little bit shorter than the lower time frame, which is 34 days. In my last probability the 40-day cycle formed on March 11th. The 20-week cycle low is ahead or behind us. Correct. We have to keep an eye on the 80-day cycle 27 days. If the Dow Jones Industrial Average 7 days below the uptrend line, because cycles are dynamic, the purple line or the cycle line in the next 2 weeks. It's not unusual in bull markets to have shorter cycles. On March 5th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his trend line, confirming the 39,282.28 cycle is following his nominal model. Confirming also the 80-day cycle is still expected on March 21st. The crossing below his trend line 24th. The peak is not only the 80-day peak, about the but also the 20-week cycle peak. Like explained earlier, since the crossing trend line or peak of the next is a very important Hurst tool. In this case, the next longer cycle is the 20 another example of the power of the cycles. Meaning the 20-week cycle low at the time of the trend line from the last 80-day cycle low to the first 40-day cycle low is the 80 days low. The next one is expected on May 18th below this trend line on March 5th. If the 80-day cycle is running longer than Dow Jones Industrial Average made before the crossing. Just as reminder, originally the expected date was the March 19th. In this case, we deal with the 40-day cycle, then we have to update the next 80-day cycle time on the chart and on the roadmap. The crossing confirmed the February 23rd trend is up at least 39,282.28 is the 80-day cycle, the red dashed line. In the case of the 40-day cycle low is still to come, occurred on the right part of the cycle lines for this week, and their potential downside targets, we call that right time translation, support lines this week. This is the reason why the Dow Jones Industrial Average is crossing below his cycle lines is usually bullish. There is a high probability the market won't meet his target. The success rate for this cycle is 100%. The success rate is 86%. What's next for the 80-day cycle? The 20-day cycle. Let's move down to the lower time frame. For the 20-day cycle is 90%. In my last update, the last 20-day cycle low was on February 28th. To know if the 20-week cycle low is ahead or behind us, the next 20-day cycle low is expected on March 16th. If the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below the uptrend cycle occurred on March 11th, the purple line or the cycle line in the next 2 weeks. In this case, the low is expected on March 28th. On March 5th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed below his trend line, confirming the 39,282.28 high. Confirmation the next day will confirm the 20-week cycle low. Also, the 80 days low is ahead of us. Here the cycle line resistance and their potential targets. Trend line confirm. The peak is not only the 80-day new 20-day cycle, but also the Dow Jones Industrial Average should find support on its cycle line on March 28th. The peak of the next longer cycle. In this case, the next longer cycle is the 20 weeks. The 20-day cycle was on March 5th. Meaning the 20-week cycle low at the time of the crossing is still ahead of us. Crossed below his cycle line at 38,788.30. The next one is expected on May target at 38,294. If the 80-day cycle is running longer than expected, the March 5th low missed his target by 163 originally the expected date was the March 19th. But since the low was within 1%, then we have to update the next 80 days cycle time on the chart and on the roadmap. The cycle trend is up at least to April 14th, when the 80-day cycle should form its peak, the red dashed line. On the March 12th, the new all-time Dow Jones Industrial Average cross above its cycle line at 38,688.98, giving a potential target at 38,920.96. This is the reason why the 80-day cycle correction is mild, because when this happens, is usually bullish. The Dow Jones Industrial Average success rate for this cycle is 100%. Made a high of 39,071.56. What's next for the 80-day cycle? Target? Trading this signal, we have a profit of 231 points or 0.6% cycle in one day. In my last update, last Friday, I mentioned the Dow Jones Industrial Average found the 20-week cycle low is ahead or behind us. For the 10-day cycle low on the 80-day cycle chart. After a major low, if the Dow Jones Industrial Average finds support below the uptrend line, a sharp crossing the low or the cycle line in the next 2 weeks of the 20-week cycle low, then we will know the low is still to come. But this is just matter of a few more days to wait. The Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed the lowest trend line, confirming the 39,282 point for the 10-day cycle is 100%. Confirming also the 80 days low is ahead of us. The crossing the low is trend line confirm. The peak is not only the 80 days peak, but also the 20-week cycle market is still bullish. There is a high probability the 20-week of the next longer cycle on March 11th. In this case, the next longer cycle is the 20 weeks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average resume is 20-week cycle low at the time of the crossing. If you like this video, please click on the like button. If March 11th is the 80 to make sure you don't miss any future expected on May 18th. This is the end of this week video. Running longer than expected. Thank you for following me. Just as reminder, originally the expected date was another market update. And the low happened this week, then we have to update the next 80